service providers are registered in Nigeria. I remember that in my earlier submissions, I made reference to the fact that we are now going into a fluid concept of sovereignty. Yes, the Company and Allied Matters Act provides that a company should be registered in Nigeria. But don't forget, while you are trying to formulate law and policy to regulate a fluid area like cloud computing, don't forget that technologically we are coming from the lowest rung of the ladder. Therefore, if you make your law and regulation to stifle the system, at the end of the day, what will you achieve your objective? So let us be cognizant of that. So there are situations, for instance, as at the time the Company and Allied Matters Act was drafted, nobody was talking about cloud computing. Therefore, it couldn't have been in the public at the time. So there are certain things that when we are trying to make law and policy regulations, we should take cognizance of the evolutionary trends.
Yes, Doc, I've just been ordered to bring this session to a close because we have exceeded the time allocated to us. Okay, since she's part of the organizer, so she can make 1 minute comment.
Just to what you were saying around thing, and I just wanted to make one point, which is around, it comes back to what is the cloud, and to Ijeoma's comment around the cloud. We have to understand what the cloud is. The cloud is when you have you consolidate computing power for the benefit of millions of people. Now you do this to achieve economies of scale, so you can pay. It's almost like a utility. It becomes a utility. So it's not ICT as you traditionally know it, where companies spend millions of naira getting ICT infrastructure. It is simply a utility which can be switched on and switched off, and therefore it is priced as a utility. Now, having said that, because you have millions of customers across different countries, the question is, do you localize your service for every single country in which you offer that service? In which case you stop being like a utility, and guess what, the costs go up. The second thing is around jurisdiction. When I sit at my computer and I go onto the internet and register for a cloud service, where is that transaction being entered into? It's not in Nigeria, because as soon as I've gotten onto the net, I've left the country to wherever else that service is hosted. So when you're talking about and I'm not for or against localizing, but the question is we have to look at the real practicalities of one, where is the service being provided from? Okay, who is the service being provided to? Right? Now, when you look at areas of critical national importance and national security, or protecting the most vulnerable, like children, of course, there are areas in which you need to have some legislation. And what you will see is, around the world, most countries have legislation that protects a certain class or certain aspects of national security. And those legislations actually do not vary greatly from country to country. So if you're talking about harmonization, right? I mean, here we talk about convergence of legislation, but convergence where? Are you talking across borders? And how easy is that to do, knowing that all these providers, you have some in Europe, you have some in the US, and all of us around the world are using the services? Or are you talking about convergence within the country? If you're talking about convergence outside borders, how do you achieve that? So I think we need to be very careful about over-regulating.
Yeah, Helen, law would always be either local or international. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And there would always be sovereignty, in domestic law, and there will be international cooperation in international law. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So when I'm talking about convergence in terms of regulation, I was talking about convergence of regulatory authorities, so that someone who is in telecoms can get licenses to do broadcasting if possible. Someone who is in IT doesn't need to go to telecoms. So NCC realized that when they came up with universal licensing as well. So that's basically, and I think maybe we can wrap another conference around this whole subject. On that note, please let's give a rousing round of applause to the panelists. Thank you very much.
All right, then without waste of time, we would like to
discuss during the discussion panels. For all other things, we already have those reports and they will be made available. To look at the salient issues that have been discussed and the conclusions that we draw from it. So if the conclusion does not tally with what you agree, you have to indicate so that we can add the proper views here. Because what I'm doing is the views that have been expressed on the floor of this meeting, not views that we did during our own study. So for the various panels, for the first panel, which is the SME panel, some of the issues that we got there was that cloud computing is critical for business development. And basically some expressed fears that if we adopt cloud, then many jobs may be lost. But as we are told, the study showed that by adopting cloud, more jobs were even created. So that fear expressed is not necessary at all. We also found that there are 3 categories in the usage of cloud computing in SMEs. There are the leaders, the followers, and the laggers. And the question we have to answer is, where do we fall if we are SME operators? And as a country, where can we say we fall in the use of cloud computing? From our research, we can see that we are not really leaders